Well, it's a great pleasure to have a good friend, Rakesh Bandipelli, with me today. And today we're going to be talking about, I thought we'd review a book, or not so much review a book, but talk about a book. And it's a book you may have seen. I'm a Kindle person, but it's called From Source to Sold. And it is, yes, all about supply chain. And what I particularly liked about the book is that there's no like supply chain formulas or too many supply chain acronyms. What this book is all about is 26 stories of supply chain leaders. And after reading the book, what I got out of it was that all supply chain leaders are different. So there was all their personal views on how to lead and supply chain. But then you started seeing some common threads going through all the stories. And I think that was very, very notable. And in particular, something that perked my interest, as you may guess would perk my interest, is the communication side. Because what became evident to me was that something that is lacking in a lot of supply chain people and supply chain leaders is that ability to communicate what they do simply to an audience. And as usual, communication all boils down to complex things being boiled down to very simple concepts that anyone can understand. And I think generally us as supply chain professionals do a poor job of that, and that's probably where there's a growth area. So to be able to, for a supply chain manager to be able to be invited into the boardroom and explain to the board what's happening in supply chain without all the acronyms, without the defaults and the slobs and 4PL and 5PLs and all these things that just confuse them. If you want to be invited back to the boardroom next time and be influential and improve the supply chain and get the board understanding why supply chain is important to their business, then being able to articulate something that's as complex as supply chain very simply and succinctly, I think is imperative. And that goes whether it's at the board or down the level as well. So it's something that I'm encouraged because I'm in supply chain and I'm also a communications teacher. So to me, after reading the book, it was like, wow, I can see that it's, I've seen it in real life, but this book also brought it home that that is an area where we can improve. What do you think, RB?
Very well summarized, and totally agree about the communication piece. We are too busy doing. Hence, there's no time actually telling anything. And like we were just discussing before, there's so many wonderful opportunities out there to tell the story, to communicate the story. And there's some really great leaders doing some fantastic job. But of course, the time. And we're all and supply chain is all about efficiency and how do you manage your time and how do you manage your operations and the optimization and everything. So most of us are lost in this whole optimization piece. And then obviously with a very little time to ourselves, either could be reading or could be communicating or could be taking part in the industry comms and talking to wider team members in your business, or talking to exactly what you said before, to the board members as well. It does take a very clear, defined communication, given it's such a complex piece, and we just handle this every day. So for us, it's a default talking all these acronyms. But again, we just got to be thinking about the audience and making sure that we talk about the bottom line, we talk about in a simple language and make sure how crucial the function in itself is in order to maintain a sustainable, profitable business. So,
yeah, stories and examples are amazing ways to be able to make something complex simple for an audience to understand. That's for sure. And I think you're right. Where a lot of the times, like supply chain, are very left brain thinkers, so very logical, and down in the trenches, putting out fires, and sometimes forget just to put their head up and smell the roses and see what opportunities are there. You know.
Yeah.
Maybe
and exactly to your. Exactly to your point, keep it simple. Or that one thing I really liked about the book is actually they kept it very simple, right from the title itself, source to sold. All right. As soon as I look at it, it's like, all right, this sounds supply chain.
Yeah.
And I always had in mind, maybe there should be some supply chain books. And I was like, when I looked at it and you referred as well, and I was like, all right, maybe I should read this. And the fact that it's actually, the best part about this book is it's an individual story, like you mentioned, of each leader and how they manage the supply chain. And there is no 3-step formula. There is no 10-step framework, nothing. It's just, and I think that's where I do love working in supply chain is everyone can add their own element of magic to your operations and bring that difference of human. And that's what makes it even more interesting with supply chain is you add your own element of personality, you add your own element of values to the company you work for. And then it's all about adding value and also gaining value both ways.
Yeah,
so
I definitely agree with that, Rakesh. So, Rakesh, I asked you to pick your favorite chapter and tell us a little bit about why that was your favorite chapter and a little bit about what you learned from that chapter.
Yeah.
So what was that? What was your favorite?
So I'll bring it down to one chapter. I believe it's 21. I remember the CEO's name. It's Jim Rowan. He's currently the CEO of Volvo Trucks. And one of the really good things about obviously the book, but also particularly about this particular chapter for me is something I always been mentioning in Accolade, all these conferences I've been speaking at is look at supply chain as a marketing service, not a service itself, and look at the amount of change you can bring to your business. So I feel if we perfectly deploy supply chain as a marketing strategy, it will take business to another whole new level. And I keep referring to the example Amazon. All they've been doing is talking about supply chain, 7-day delivery, 5-day delivery, 6-day, blah, blah, blah. And then it comes to 1-day delivery or same-day delivery. So they're not selling products, they're selling supply chain. And they've championed the marketing strategy around supply chain. And it's not a service for them anymore. That's what they sell. And the reason I like Jim is that he actually talks about the same thing too. Is like many companies continue to look supply chain as a service and outsource it, but very few people look at the opportunity within and the opportunity with optimizing it and the opportunity that actually contributes to your bottom line, along with the influence it can create in the market. And that was fantastic, and it just definitely resonates with me. And it was great to see Jim Rowan, who's on the other side of the world, almost has the same mindset. And I've been talking to a lot of people, and I've never seen that in written before. So I was like quite excited looking at it. Yeah. And
so really essentially, we're saying that rather than it being a cost center, like an expense, that is actually a revenue center, right? This is where we can make revenue. You know, we can increase revenue with supply chain. You know, it's not just something in expense world that we've got to try and squash down and reduce as much as possible to increase our profits. We can increase our profits by using supply chain effectively and having a better service, having a better supply chain than our competitors, and increase our revenue that way. So it's just a different way of looking at it. And I think the tide is changing slowly. And you're right, Amazon and a few others have led the way in that, and companies are seeing what is possible.
Yeah. And I won't quote any other companies. So, but it's all about 3PL and 4PL and outsource it. We don't want to say it. Let's crunch the numbers. But there are definitely things to consider as a business and think about, do I really need to outsource it? Is there something I can do it differently that will create magic within my business and actually gives a better view of the brand to a market, rather than always talking about, exactly to your point, crunch the numbers, make it more logical, and it's all about a cost center, but look at the other way. And I feel the opportunity is enormous.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
So thanks for the chat. So it's from source to sold, and I'll put the link in comments. We've got no affiliation to the authors. We just think it's a great book. So if you're in supply chain, interested in supply chain leadership, I would certainly recommend that book. All right, thanks, mate, and see you Friday.
I'll see you then. Thank you.